got devs and they've got insight for you. That's what it says on my sheet, and that's what I'm going to read. As always, we've got our esteemed group of designers here. We've got AJ, Pon, and Clumsy joining us here on the show. Guys, this is going to be one that I think is going to be fun, because a lot of these were received pretty well that we did in the past. If you haven't done a Dev Insight show before, we got to just go over some of the changes that we've made in the past and take a look at how they've affected both the perception of the god, the win rate, the popularity, kind of all the stuff that you would expect to see with all this. But first, let's start with what we're going to look into changing in some of the next updates. We took care of a lot of the meta gods in this last update that just went live today, but as always, we're going to be looking for some of those as well.
I'm glad you brought that up, because there's just went live today with a new update, so we have a lot of changes. We're not going to be reviewing that data, of course, because we don't have it yet. You've only been playing with it for a few hours, so
like 2 or 3 hours.
It wouldn't yield very useful information yet.
No.
So a lot of the gods we'll talk about today, they have other changes, or gods we'll talk about today will be from last patch.
Okay.
Some of them even being changed again today. We'll make references to that as we go. And even though we just have things launched today, we don't have data from this patch, we are already still have some rough plans towards the next patch. There's a couple more meta nerfs. It seems like that tends to be one of our most...
People like that.
Yeah.
People like that.
I think the balance team has been doing a fantastic job this year of just really trying to do our best to cater towards the Smite community. Make sure the game feels fair in as many ways as possible. So, the meta nerf section. So, who do we have on the table for meta nerf coming up in the next update show?
So coming on the next update show, we got a couple of meta nerfs. Jormungandr, Ao Kuang, Neja, Hebois, all, seeing a lot of popularity in different levels of play between the SPL. I mean, honestly, I was pretty astounded at the fact that Jormungandr was being played in the SPL and SML and in mid lane. I mean, Zeros are pretty crazy. We've seen some much success. That was even before his recent buffs from the last patch.
We'll see
which we'll go on to talk about.
We'll see Yorm's stats today.
Yes.
But we still are, he was buffed recently. And we'll see the results of that. But we do anticipate that he will need a little nerf in the future, so we're keeping an eye on him. Ao Kuang is another one on our list. This seems to be like the ranked champion.
Yeah,
god.
this is doing really
like
well.
The most banned god in ranked.
That was even before his passive changes. He was always steadily creeping up, and now he's really up there.
That is true. Even before we reworked his passive, the god was a sleeper OP.
Yes.
And we were trying to redesign this passive in a way that was not too much of a buff, but he's still sleeper OP. But people are starting to catch on now. So we're gonna be addressing that. Hebo is the other one as far as meta nerfs go. Or Habwa. All right, whatever. I can't say it like that. I've been calling him Hebo since closed beta. I can't change how to say it.
I just like messing with people.
So he's an interesting one because we see the community gonna go back and forth on Hebo. A lot of people, he kind of struggled to find his role, and a lot of people that counted against him. But the god is wildly powerful. I think everybody is kind of starting to agree on that, right?
Yeah, you're really seeing it in Pro League games.
So he's going to be the last meta nerf. We listed also Neja. He doesn't really fall into the meta nerfs. Neja is getting the Project Olympus treatment.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
So he's not a meta nerf. He's going to get a lot of bug fixes, some adjustments,
that was the last one on the list, right? We had Jing Chen, we had Kukulin, and Neja was the third one on the Reddit thread.
Then Travis will already be planning for the next pass of those gods. We want to continue fixing bugs. It's a huge priority for us. So Neja is getting that big update next patch.
Beautiful. Okay, and then we also will have some Horus and Set balance for the first time.
Yep.
First big balance pass, I would say, for these gods in the next update.
So what did we do today?
So today was largely bug fixes. Horus and Set got a significant amount of bug fixes or quality of life things. For example, Set players today will probably experience being able to see the clone through walls, being able to teleport to them more easily. And so we wanted to address all those things first before we really took a stab at properly balancing them. They are on the weaker end, but we expected with those bug fixes they will rise up. Horus is probably in a safer spot than Set. Set's probably the more underperforming character. And so we're going to watch this patch data very closely and then see if they need buffs and to what degree. But I would say it's probably more likely that Set's going to get more significant buffs than Horus. But again, we have to wait for the data.
Set also, he's the higher skill cap, higher skill ceiling, so therefore
про что сегодня будет идти речь, ребята? В следующем патче нам занерфят Аукуана,
Нежу, but both of the gods for new god launches are clearly on the lower end of the spectrum.
Yes.
That said, we have a lot of people having fun with them,
потому что Jormungandr пикали даже на
as normal as the team has learned this year, not to overreact to god launches right away, especially on the lower end. Let people learn about them. So we're going to collect a little bit more data, but it's likely we're going to see small buffs to both of those gods. One or both of those gods.
Okay, fair enough. We also have a note here that Guardian/Warrior buffs might be on the table just to try and increase some diversity in those classes.
Key thing is looking at diversity. We were really trying to bring back warriors in the solo lane. we did that, but it seems like we've only brought back 1 or 2 at a time.
Yeah.
We want to look at both the support class and the solo class to make sure that there's a little bit of a deeper god pool and higher ranked and in SPL. So we're going to be targeting kind of the lower end statistic performing gods in that scenario.
Okay.
Try to buff those up. We might also be looking at some wider spread item changes to help even those gods out from kind of subclasses. So berserkers, warriors versus gladiators, shield warriors. Some things like that will be on the radar in the future as well.
Cool. Sounds great. That's all what you can look forward to in the next update show. But again, if you haven't done a Dev Insight before, this is how it works. We're getting into the meat and potatoes now. We're going to take a look at some stats. Exactly. Hope your numbers, people, around here. We take a look at the high elo in Conquest only, so Plat plus. So you expect to see the higher end. This is the higher end of our player group. And then again, it's only Conquest. And we just take a look at their win rate in relation to the rest of the cast. So the number one god being the most winningest god in the game, down to 103 now, 102 somewhere 103. In there. And then mirror matches are excluded for this. So.
Is that 104? I thought one was 103.
No, 101. No, 100's Merlin. So 101's Jorm. 102 is
103 is Horse.
There you go. We
have
103. We figured it out.
Nailed it right away.
Counting.
And then popularity as well. Same sort of stat. You'll get a number that is in relation to the rest of the gods in the cast. So we'll start with King Arthur. He got a nerf last update, shifted the damage on his ultimate to deal less true damage. A lot of this, the feedback on this was, what's up? Because a lot of people thought it was not a nerf. Those people were incorrect.
We will find out today. So perception, we always go through perception, then reality, then evaluate our success as balanced.
Sure.
So this one, perception, not our most successful change as far as perception goes. We did want to affect Arthur in a way that people agreed with. Okay, yeah, we need that. We wanted perception. So we were like, the ultimate damage, let's shift that around so that the true damage is much lower so he can't just shred tanks as well as he was. But we did not succeed as well as we thought on that one. The community, a lot of people even somehow claiming this was a buff. Confused a little bit. It was a lot of numbers. It was a lot of up and downward shifting. We know that can have this effect when it's announced publicly. We were very aware of that. But we did feel like it was the right change to do. So the community still obviously thinking this god is very strong.
Yes.
Top ban rate up there in the top 3 along with Alquang and Merlin. So nerfs were necessary. He's already getting another nerf that happened today that is not being accounted for in these stats. So keep in mind when we go now to his stats, we will see that his win rate was actually pretty heavily affected by this.
Yeah, negative 14 change.
And honestly, he was, I'm sure most people are looking at, in 78, even before this change, he was already at 78. So the energy changes and the
92
one damage nerfs from before were very impactful. All of our nerfs to Arthur have been very statistically impactful.
Sure.
All of the community doesn't believe us for 1 second. No one believes us. This is why we have this show. We're trying to help you understand.
So he is nearly one of the 10 worst gods in the game by win rate.
And he is about to get nerfed again.
Right. Yes. And this is again non-mirror matches, high elo only for Conquest.
Thing is though, Arthur has very high skill potential.
Yes.
Very good Arthur players can make this god shine well above this average rank, even with only considering high elos.
Sure.
This god has very specific applications, pros of enmity as well.
Рассказывают о том, что только очень скиллованные игроки могут заставить его сиять в ранговых играх.
I believe that was the #1 complaint. So we'll get to look at this god again in the next Inside Show, most likely to see where does he finally end up. We try to hyper focus on what the community was asking for. He was ulting too much. We want his energy to still matter for us all. We didn't want to slap a cooldown on it and make him like everybody else. That is not our intention from balance, is just to make everyone the same.
Sure.
So although the community was pushing us in that direction, we decided to stick with the energy. We just slowed down his energy game. That's gonna put him in the bottom 10 gods of the game. But for his level of skill and uniqueness, that's probably okay, and he'll probably still be able to perform well in SPL and in Ranked, and for people who really dedicate time to it.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was thinking before, for a lot of the gods that we touched upon in the show, sometimes we talk about how they're either too low or too high. We might want to bring them close towards the middle, but King Arthur's not necessarily that case, and you just went on that. And that's important to remember.
One thing we've learned is that being at 50 is not balanced for everybody.
Right.
Some gods feel inherently balanced.
Даже те боги, которые на 50-м месте по шансу побед, это еще не сбалансированные боги. Вот что они решили, так как сообщество не считает и не принимает такие правки.
We'll have to wait
Надо,
and see
чтобы
on
в
that
говно
one.
был прям
Jormungandr, the next one
занефлен.
up on the
Извините за
list.
выражение.
He got increased basic attack damage, and we allowed him to refire consuming bellow if it's interrupted, but removed the mitigation during
И
that
увеличили
channel.
базовую атаку
Jorm is a
Ермунгандеру, и
god
вот
that,
посмотрят,
you know,
как это
from my perspective
повлияло.
at least, on the pro scene, I mean, we see this god all the time now.
Теперь на просцене мы видим после этого апа все время Ермунгандра. Иногда на миду, иногда на соло-линии видим Ермунгандра.
Where he was allowed to be stunned in his second ability, and we were surprised that he was seeing so much play at that point.
So Jorm continues to be really, really popular, which is great.
Ермунгандр очень популярен.
Everybody's loving him. Everybody's having fun. No one is banning him. So he's not
Никто
so
его еще не банит.
strong that
Он
anyone wants
все
to
еще не
spend a
настолько
ban on him. I mean, possibly it's just because they still
силен,
perceive,
чтобы на него тратить
like,
бан.
the must-ban characters, even though they've all of the must-ban characters have been nerfed heavily recently. So we thought Jorm was going to start getting more of that ban share. Didn't happen.
Так они берут данные ребят с платина плюс ранга, только завоевания, или SPL, SML игр, Тотем Стронг. Какие казуальщики?
You barely notice it because that's banned one every 10 games or something that you notice. So he's strong, but doesn't seem to be frustratingly strong, which is great. However,
он силен, но не настолько силен, чтобы прям вот вообще.
So we're gonna look at him for a small nerf, most likely next patch. But
возможно, в следующем патче будет маленький нерф для него.
He went up quite a bit. Look, and a lot of people when we buffed him said there's no reason to buff this god. There's no need to. He was a 73rd. That's not great.
Right.
And the god's not particularly hard to play. I wouldn't say this is the same example.
Он на 73-м месте по победам.
I mean, with that passive, you know, he's got
После
definitely a
того,
lot of
после
opportunity
апа,
to stay alive.
73-е место, он
I
был
mean, his ultimate
на...
is very strong and can bail you out if you make a mistake. That's one thing that makes this god a little bit more new player friendly. But
Ой, вру,
overall,
он сейчас на 35-м, он был на 73-м.
He increased about the
Извините,
level we
запутался в
hoped.
циферках.
His popularity still... He's
Barely
pretty much the
changed.
most popular in the game. He only went down because Horse and Set.
Right,
That's
exactly.
Horse and Set. He's still the number one god outside of Horse and Set. So that's great
Он номер
for him.
один,
We're glad
помимо
this,
горы и сета, по
this change is
популярности.
keeping him in a good spot, right on the line, but we want to make sure we keep looking forward to him towards the future. So
Это все Тотем Стронг, это все бредни, домыслы игроков, я бы сказал. Кто где и так далее. Есть статистики, есть цифры, есть как бы ранговый режим, есть обычный режим, и все. Таких домыслов, что в доте, домысляторов, как ты, что в доте хватаешь в Лиге Легенд. Затрахали уже.
Yeah, every time we would come over to the other building for some meetings,
Херастер с
normally
ранги, их
Clumsy's very
10.
happy and like, hey
И
guys, what's
они не
going on?
донатят ни хера,
Every
нахер
week
они
during
нужны
Norm
вообще.
Development, he was like,
Вот так думает
hey
разработчик.
guys, I'm dying on the inside, by the way.
Hey, but now we're happy.
It was fine.
Yeah,
It was out.
it was not an easy process, but
Никто не будет
Palm was the same way,
удовлетворять
'cause that was
ваши
when the dual
маленькие
release of Powers
пипирки
and Set was starting to
из-за
ramp up.
вашей
That's a rough
циферки
time.
в
Yeah, you
игре.
guys,
the whole Titan team.
Извините, Тотем Стронг.
yes, very
But
much
we've
so.
been making some amazing.
Слишком мало
No
платите.
doubt about it. No
Это
doubt
не
about it.
проблема. Контента для людей, которые играют столько, сколько... Ну, большинство играет все-таки в смай 2-3 часа после работы. Поэтому для них в основном идет все изменения. Учти это. Из-за нами, значит, бафнули пассивку, замедление и анимацию ее прыжка.
Yeah, she feels a lot better. And that's kind of the last I heard about it. I don't know.
Yeah, we were surprised too.
Она
We
чувствуется
noticed that the
намного
initial
лучше. Вот
feedback
все,
was,
что
"Whoa, that's a lot."
получили
That's
от
really good.
сообщества.
We're glad we could make the god.
Это рыночная экономика, не проблема, пишет Дикси. Да, я согласен. Я не вижу этой проблемы. Игра по-прежнему клевая для тех, кто играет 2-3 часа, если она работает. Главное, чтобы она работала.
But once it lived, it was actually pretty quiet.
Paul and I were looking at the Izanami buffs.
Сам-то я отношусь тоже к казуальщикам.
Izanami was interesting because we always use Izanami internally as like she is one of the fastest, clearest hunters in the game.
Right.
That's almost without a
she's
doubt
like the
with her
baseline
signals.
tester.
Она один из самых быстрых зачищаторов линий в игре.
Her fade away, her leap away was probably a little bit slow, and that's, you know, kind of a bounce mechanism. And we went internal testing. We could make that ability super busted where it's almost instant. And we had to be careful to make sure, you know, if we went that far, she'd probably be the #1 most picked. formulaic. And I think
Вот-вот. В любом случае, Харес достаточно объективный и смотрит еще на про-лигу и старается все-таки смотреть на ранговое завоевание платина плюс рангов. Говорит, что это типа казуальщики, это в корне неверно. Хотя таких, как ты, тотемчик, очень много. Человек целых 10. Зато токсичности здесь не хватает, как за 1000. А то и за 2.
Plus 27. That's pretty big. That's puts her in the top 20 almost of all gods.
Она почти топ-21 бог по шансу побед. Все еще ее особо не берут, но она очень сильная. На СПЛ ее, по-моему, один раз или даже не брали.
We know how important early pressure can be. Izanami is the god of early duo lane pressure.
Seriously.
We were really surprised. So as we get over here to the popularity numbers, we didn't see much change.
I mean, plus 11, that's
all right.
It moves the needle a little bit, right?
I guess so. Still
На 54-м месте по популярности сейчас за нами. О, это для всех проблема лейнгера.
Could be in this range. So this is not a real clear indicator. So if you like Izanami,
ну, потому что вы, чертяги, играете там 20 часов в день, и это как бы... Таких единиц, повторяюсь, в Стронг.
X-Ball every single time. You can pick
снайпить Стронг. Это летает ПКД. И руинить мне ПКД. Знаем мы, как вы снайпите. Жукстеры. Сегодня он это... Мазар с Хиломезом мне заснайпили. Снайперы.
And it's funny because, as Pon said, we play against her a lot because we use her as a test for if you can outclear Izanami.
Я на Рахте 4-ю игру играл вообще.
New balance, whatever. If you're outclearing Izanami, that is it.
Yeah.
So we play against her all the time.
Но у меня были такие тиммейты, что я еле победил.
People were pretty happy with it all around, but it doesn't seem so much that people are complaining or upset or frustrated. So that's good. That's kind of a plus-minus of the popularity staying at the same.
Ну, они все еще разглашают о том, какое там чуть-чуть поизменилось циферка, вот это не так много, мы не ожидали большего, там, и да, вы должны играть больше Izanami, чтобы мы смогли больше, да, играйте, пожалуйста.
Is next up on the list. We removed the self-root while deploying his ultimate. This is one that I was super excited about because as a Zeus player, I know what it did for that character when we removed the root. And
it feels good.
To me, it has felt much more potent both playing as and playing against. It took a little bit of getting used to, though. I mean, it feels weird almost to be able to move around while you're doing it at first.
This is something I'm kind of picky on, and I
really
want
to make sure that our team gets represented properly.
Some animations make sense for this, some do not.
Sure.
This is not
пока
something that's an easy design rule to apply to all gods that like we don't want to self-root you, whatever.
Right.
It needs to fit the theming of the god and the ability. And for this ability, QIWI, he leaps into the air and is kind of floating, and his feet are off the ground and he's fully moving, and it felt to me like moving around, sliding, floating is fine.
Sure.
It's also something he does just by leaping.
Yeah, exactly.
He already kind of has that hovery feel, so this to me felt acceptable. This is not something we would consider on everyone. Just because you have a self-root doesn't mean Agnes is going to get removed.
Right.
Doesn't feel like that one makes as much sense at all.
Yeah,
we've talked about it. I won't lie. We've talked about it.
It'd be like if King Arthur
Да ты не сможешь сделать мастера, братан.
Smash and his legs are rooted still. Like
без хорошего дула.
Roots on a lot of those animations because it doesn't make sense otherwise.
So then QIWI, to evaluate as far as perception for reality, he's really interesting because this god has been statistically overrated for his entire life.
Yeah.
I will tell you this now, you are not as good at QIWI as you think you are.
QIWI.
Whoever you are.
Они кричат о том, что QIWI недооценен, и после этого апа он всего лишь на 86-м месте по винрейту. Они говорят о том, что самый большой винрейт этого бога был на 42-м месте, он находился. За все время. Ни разу не был в топ-10 по шансу побед.
But he made a nice bump. He feels a lot better. We're not really hearing too many complaints about him. And then when we go over to the popularity stats, we see a very nice
Ну, как бы Джуст и дуэль никого не интригуют, к сожалению, из разработчиков почему-то. Наверное, потому что там играет 300 человек. Ну, возможно, не так. Ну, есть мне такое подозрение, что тот же самый Джуст, который играет 300 человек русских и еще 50 евросов, как бы, ну, не интригует людей.
However, they will be more powerful.
Ну и соточков дуэлистов тоже как бы не сильно. Ну это я просто в процентном соотношении. Представь, что в самолете играет 10 тысяч, и из них только 300 играет в джуст. Это же печально.
If you only get one a match, you still feel like a baller, and that's okay. That's part of the fun of HOYI.
I will say, I locked in HOYI to test it for the first time after this change, and I went up against a Scotty, and the first time I ulted was on her permafrost, and I like zoomed across, and I was like, oh my god, what did we do? Like I didn't realize I was getting permafrosted at the same time.
Were you immune, or did it make you slide?
No, I slid.
Okay, he's not
Это имеется в виду в режиме онлайн, не все, успокойся.
You permafrost while
100 человек,
moving one way
это
and
нормальная
permafrosted
цифра
the other, and I was
онлайна.
like, oh my
that
god,
might
what is
fail my
happening?
theming check because you're flying, but you sliding.
Yes, Scotty nerf.
No, I
did it.
I already gave up on that idea a long time ago. Scotty's ice does affect flying characters. Yes.
Unlucky for us.
So this was a successful change, like I said.
Yes.
Good quality of life,
Они рассказывают о том,
didn't
что
overbuff,
Скади
nice popularity bump. That's all
летающих
the main
персонажей
things.
аффектит.
That's great.
Perfect. All right, Ganesh was the next
Задевает
out on the list. We increased
своей
the power
ледяной
buff
дорожкой.
duration on his 1, added magical procs to his 2, and increased the dash damage. So 1, 2, and 3 all got buffed for Ganesh, and very little discussion.
And that's what I saw.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe if
Они
you're in a
апнули
more
Ганеш очень сильно,
Discord
но
out there, maybe you saw a lot more, but we felt it was pretty quiet from the community.
Yeah.
никто такой
No, I
щиши
will
не
say,
заметил в
we've seen a lot
сообществе.
more Ganesh as of late in the Pro League. Or these
Ну,
two,
на
you know,
Pro League мы
maybe
увидели
it
намного
just
больше
happened to coincide
Ганеша.
that way, but when you get buffs on your first, second, and third ability, I imagine it's not a
And
coincidence.
quite
На
recently
первый,
before that,
второй,
we buffed his
третий
ultimate as well.
обилки получил
so,
баф, но
So
все
this is one
равно
of the
не стал
interesting
имбовый.
things. We were actually, so we said it was quiet, but we were actually expecting a
Это
little.
называется Dev
Because Ganesh
Insight.
is one of those gods I believe the community generally
Взгляд
describes
разработчиков
as
снутри.
Yeah.
Even when
Это
the
не
god
про
is not
скины,
doing very well,
братишка.
people, this god is well balanced. They do a good group. The
Про
types of things
баланс
they can do
тут,
are
про
fair
баланс.
and telegraphed, and I understand them. So normally when we buff those gods, people are like, "Why are you breaking them?" But
It's like
no,
when buffing Agni or
yeah,
something.
but the key thing here is pretty. Yeah, Agni is another one that gets
That's a big
commonly
one.
described like this. So the thing
Buff
is though,
protection
as we get
должен
to the
давать
stats,
маг
we see that,
защиты и
Ganesh
физзащиту.
was
Не
hurt.
понял,
Yeah,
Ленинград,
Ganesh was,
это к
was a
чему?
little low, down in 66th place. I was a bit rough,
Значит,
a little lower than he
Ганеш,
has been, and
шанс
even lower,
победы на
depending on which way
45-е
you slice it,
место
some of the
выше у
games
него.
and stuff like that especially.
Плюс 21,
So we
кстати,
wanted
неплохо
to buff
так.
him. We wanted to give him a few of the things that people have been asking for. So, like
А баланс, смотрите, это одна из самых, наверное, балансных моба на данный момент. Сравните ее с Лигой Легенд или той же Дотой.
It was something we thought was interesting at the time of the design. Like,
В этом плане к харизм вообще нет претензий. А только респект и уважуха.
But nothing about the ability's presentation really makes him feel like
It's only
it should only be physical. He's actually sending out waves of magical energy, like, and he's meditating. So yeah, we like to have those types of changes.
У меня есть претензии к собственным ручкам, криворучкам и скорости реакции, которая падает зараза.
We didn't see much
Чем
popularity
больше я
change. So I
стримлю.
guess kind of along the theme of not that many people discussing it. It seems like not
Вот
many
к
people
этому у
trying
меня
it.
есть претензии.
You know,
Где... Вот не к харизм, а к
I feel like there
реальному
could be a
богу,
pretty
какого
specific type of
хрена
support player really
происходит.
like Ganesh.
Well,
That's-
it's
that's
my
true.
go-to.
Yeah,
Like
is
when
it?
I'm playing, when I get
Really?
the support role, it's my go-to. because,
Да-да-да,
like,
лингеры,
even-
это про
even
это
if
еще
worst case, I drop
давным-давно
the
говорили,
zone
еще в
control,
прошлое
I
обновление, они
overlook
просто сейчас
someone, I make
рассказывают
their
о том,
day really
как
sad,
и
and
это
I'm
повлияло.
And you can't
That's
last
true.
hit minions or gods for yourself, right?
I
Yeah,
guess-
I can't last it. Like, I have the selfish jungler need to.
А,
last
другим
it,
ты имеешь в
and I
виду,
will
так и
definitely
осталась
steal
физзащита,
kills with
я
Sylvanas
понял
if
тебя.
Sylvanas.
True.
So I just play
Right.
Ganesh, and that's removed from me.
That
Ну
makes
ничего
sense.
страшного, я думаю, потихонечку они сейчас обещали взглянуть еще глубже в задницы воинам, чтобы их стало как можно больше на линии. Надеюсь, Найки в какой-то веке бафнут. Скорее им чахнем, пишет Норк. Да-да, есть немножко такого.
Overall, we describe this change as successful.
Елоу-пуки, выпрями мне руки, пишет Тотем Стронг. Ну, в принципе, я бы не против, если мне тоже помогли.
Buffs that didn't overdo it, buffs that didn't result in a lot of crazy ban rate or over popularity or over win rate. Arthur is approaching a point that we think is pretty healthy, so all in all, seems like a pretty strong patch. Looking forward to getting the data for you next Insight Show on the patch that goes live today. I know it's a little confusing to keep track of multiple patches in a row, but this is the only way we can really do it to make sure we get the most accurate look at the data. It's very important to get a big sample size, or you will notice that things are very weird.
Yeah, things day one stats are very strange.
Always, yeah.
Always.
You'll see a lot of weird stuff there.
Play Ganesh, play Izanami if you haven't tried them out yet. They're a lot better
Играйте
than
Ганеша и
you
за
think.
нами.
Arthur is approaching towards the lower end, so if you don't really know what you're doing with Arthur, don't push your teammates into playing him, or don't decide to just pick him up for the first time in a ranked
Да,
match.
может, 30
You're probably gonna
минут.
have a bad time.
Yes, yeah. In the 90s.
Да ничего ты не пропустил.
We will keep our eyes on core meta nerfs going for next patch, as we always do, as well as plenty of other surprises.
Perfect.
Yeah, some cool stuff.
Again, if you're just joining us here before we kick it over to Hindu and Michaela for some community notes, this is what we've done in the past. That's what the whole Dev Insight show is for here.
Сейчас будут
We'll be
новости
looking forward to some
комьюнити.
more meta nerfs once we see how they've adjusted with the patch that just went live today. So guys, thank you for joining us here on the Dev Insight show. As I mentioned, it's time for some community news, and we've got Hindu and Michaela over on the desk.
And what a great pair to put on the desk together. It's going to be me joining by Michaela today. Michaela is a superstar, remember? She recently did an amazing video of her weather reporting.
Yes.
What was the weather report about?
It was about, there was raining gems everywhere, and it's a gem sale that's going on. So the gem sale is going to be going on till June 4th. You'll be getting up to 35% off gems. So make sure you take
У вас
advantage of that.
проблемы с
So
фокусом, ребята. Кажется, не захватывает девочку. А вот его захватывает. А вот она плывет.
Job
Two
done.
birds, one stone.
What else have we got going on this weekend?
So
Кто
we're going to be
работает с
having
камерой?
a 2x favor worshippers and XP weekend. So if you were busy at MomoCon this past weekend,
Поверните девочку нормально. Почему он смотрится нормально, а она не очень? Это же девочка. Ну, короче, про гем нам рассказывают. Типа, скидочка, ребята. Не забываем, пусть 35%. Видели ее ролик? С новости.
I've always said it. So that's the gems.
Погода.
Favor worshippers and XP this weekend. 2 times for you all at home. So play this weekend.
Значит, 2х воршиперы и благосклонности, короче, все, какая бодяга. В выходные будет. Х2. Взлетайте.
Quite a while working with a lot of teams. So I'm super excited to be talking to y'all about, we're going to be having a cutesy avatar submission. So the way it works is
You just send art in? What does that mean?
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm
cutesy
I'm
avatar
trying to
submission.
get there. Are you ready?
I thought you were a professional by now. I mean, you've been on
Anyway,
TV
so
and with...
the way it works is we know that there's a lot of people that have
Бедняга, он ее
cutesy
сбил.
avatar chests that they have like
Она
10
что-то
or 12
рассказывала, а он
extras.
вместо того, чтобы
So we
кивать,
thought,
и
what a better
начал
way to get people
вмешиваться.
to make all their fan art and stuff to be able to
А
put
теперь
that
он
in the
пытается
game,
выразить
have
заинтересованность, но,
people.
по-моему, он
And
обиделся.
so, yes, it is going live right now. And the way it'll work is you can go to
Пытается он ей подыграть, ну, в принципе, получилось. Молодец, красавчик. Вот мужик слева красавчик, реально. О, наконец девочка не плывет.
So the idea is...
Тот, кто работает с камерой, научился фокусировать.
Cutesies.
Oh, cutesies.
Yeah.
Там с аватарами какими-то.
Correct.
Oh.
Yeah. So you can submit any of your art that you like, and we'll go through, we'll choose the ones that we like the most or we think fit that chest the most. And then as a reward, we'll give you an in-game title, Artist, so that you can show off that you're in the game. And then along with that, we'll give you 10 codes of the avatar that you created so your whole squad can kind of represent.
Короче, конкурс аватаров, ребята. Расчехляем картинки, присылаем им, и вам дадут 10 кодов на ваш аватар придуманный, если его в игру ведут. Офигенно.
I thought it was a skin and I got so confused.
No, it's an avatar.
I was like, that's amazing, but I'm like, that's so much work. How is that even happening? Avatars.
Avatar.
Cool, so what avatar do I
На
have?
Кузембу был аватар?
You need to make it,
Да
then you can
ладно.
submit it, and then we will decide if we
Снорка,
like it.
это я прослушал.
Just talk stupid things and get paid. I don't do
Отлично
anything more.
прослушал.
Avatar
Я
chess
половину...
program, then. If you wanna have your
Не,
avatar
подождите,
in game,
они тут точно однозначно заливали про то, что и будет программа аватаров. И...
Smitegame.com/avatar submission, or you can go to
Во-во-во, конкурс аватаров, ребят.
It's the first article on the top.
And now we move on to the community spotlight, I believe, which is... Wait, they've given me this section to talk about artwork and like people's
Yes.
submissions? Are they crazy?
Maybe.
I think
Are
so
you the
too.
wrong person for the job?
I think
can
so.
take over
What do
from
you guys at
Here we
home
go.
think? You do it. You do it. I'll watch. I'll be your assistant. Okay. I'll chair two for you. Go.
So the first one that we have for our community fan art is going to be this adorable little chibi Merlin. It is created by Azanmaru. And I really love the colors that are going on with this. You can see like the different colors in his eyes
зачем мы
from
это
the
смотрим?
mystics that are around his hands. It's reflecting.
Just the wrong stance.
Будет что-нибудь еще?
Why?
He's an arcane stance. It's one of the weaker forms. You want the frost stance for the damage and the fire stance for the
But this
jungle
is
clear.
art.
Okay, I'm giving my opinion. I think it's amazing.
Мне кажется, что это конец.
It's really cute. So this is the kind of stuff that could be put into like the cutesy avatar chest, just so you know, like
That's
you know,
cool.
cutesy little stuff.
Вот такие вот, да, нужны
and
им
then
аватары.
next up, we have Discordia, who is drawn out by Lexi Arv. And this I really love. I love the color blocking. It almost looks like it's like a collage of like paper cuttings and stuff put together. Very unique art style, very beautiful. I love how the gold still pops.
Я думаю, дальше нам больше уже ничего интересного не расскажут. Нам расскажут, что нас... Давайте подведем как бы итог. В общем-то, по сути, что нам сказали сегодня? Что они провели отличную работу. В принципе, Артур претерпел изменения, произошли какие-то нерфы, Ганешу апнули, но это не сильно сказалось. Единственное, за что они в ответе, так это за Гермунганда на СПЛ, который стоит теперь на центральной, на сол-линии, его ждет уже нерф. В общем-то, также они нам рассказали о том, что занерфят, скорее всего, в следующем обновлении Аокванга. И вот, в общем-то, кто там еще у нас, кроме Артура, Аокванга и Гермунганда, кто-то еще ждет. Кого-то еще ждет нерф. Я уже забыл. Блин, так долго шло это все, 30 минут. 30 минут нам рассказывали, что нам расскажут в следующем обновлении. Короче, приходите на следующий подкаст, так сказать, с разработчиками. Там уже будут, наверное, рассказывать нам, действительно показывать новые скины и рассказывать, что нас ждет в следующем обновлении. А сегодня это были просто циферки, и мы посмотрели на то, как отлично работают хайрезы изнутри. И то, что нас ждет в будущем. Ну, чуть-чуть в плане баланса. Вот. Ну да, также нам расскажут, что воинов апнут еще чуть-чуть, и, может быть, стражей, которыми не играют. Собственно, на этом все. Всем спасибо огромное за просмотр. Жду вас на следующих стримах, и до завтра. Завтра жду вас просто на стримах. Спасибо всем за просмотр.